Hello, everybody, and welcome to the UnWokable podcast. I am your host, Mark Owsley, and I am here to talk to you all about the headline, which is that I put out for everybody, which was that the Norman Public School teacher that is going around and making the rounds and got fired from her job is in fact lying. Yeah, lying, but um, and I'll talk about why that is in just a moment. But do have to say this: if you like what the information I'm bringing you, the perspectives I bring you, please like and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I put the the link into the chat there, and share the videos. Uh, hit the little bell so you can know when I'm coming online. That's what helps me the most. And you can also like my page on Facebook and all of that stuff. But got some news for you. So I'm going to hit a couple of different things today before I get to the main story, which is about the teacher in Norman Public Schools and that whole real. It's a manufactured outrage event, and it was by design. But we'll get to that. The first thing I want to hit is something that's going to make people mad. But you know what? Guess what? That's what I'm pretty good at. I kind of piss everyone off from the right and the left because I don't really have I'm a registered independent. I lean conservative. I think that's pretty obvious. I am a liberty-minded person. And the first thing I need to say, though, before I go into any of that, is actually congratulations to Ryan Walters for winning the nomination for state superintendent of public instruction. I was a supporter of Ryan, and I hope that he continues down the road of the messaging and the work that actually won him the nomination, because that would be good to actually rid this stuff that we're dealing with in the schools that's causing teachers to actually quit, that's causing teachers not to go into the profession. And guess what? It's not 1775, but it's what necessitated 1775. We all know that, right? So congratulations, Ryan. Thank you for all your work, and I hope that you continue down the unwoke road. Don't you guys? Don't you, the voters who voted for him? I bet you do. Okay, good. So now this next thing, like I said, is going to make some people on my right a little bit upset. And when I say on my right, I mean, I don't even want to say on my right. That's a misnomer. Okay? It is just people on the right side of the spectrum who disagree with me on this subject. Now, the reason why I began my fight against the woke, I just want to point this out. The reason why I do what I do, the reason why I'm talking to you right now, because I never planned on doing anything like this. This is not the reason why I do that, why I do this is because I don't like manipulation, right? And I don't like manufactured narratives from either side of the aisle or either part of anything. Like, I just don't manipulate me. Put out all the information and let the everything fall where it may. Okay? But I think this was notable because I had a friend of mine. Her name is Lisa Jacobs, and she's a good friend. You should follow her on Twitter. And I believe she's on Facebook too. But she is actually close with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck. And when I say close, closer than me, meaning she's actually talked to him and has been on his show, I believe, done little blurbs for Dan Bongino. She's been a regular on the call-in portions there, and she does all kinds of activism on behalf of parents and parents' rights throughout the country. She's in Utah, and she started in California, but she is a critic of school choice. And as everyone knows, I have my concerns about school choice, and I think my message is let's make school choice woke proof, right? Let's make school choice woke proof. If we're going to do this, if that's the way that the powers that be believe is best to actually solve the problems they're using to sell it, then okay, let's make sure that it's will do what you're selling it to do, right? Because not that this is my issue, but the name of my channel is UnWokable. Okay, so I'm pretty, I'm pretty defensive of what that means and why I'm doing this and what will actually fix the problems, right? Okay. But I think this is worth showing because it's someone whose conservative cred cannot be questioned, right? You know, anybody, and this is one part I don't like about the whole narrative in general, is that if you question the school choice narrative, then you're automatically just anti-school choice, which is not the case, right? I want to make it better, right? I want to make it woke proof. So there's that. And this won't take too much time. I'm going to just show you what Glenn Beck said. I'm just going to show you, and then I'm going to let it lie. Okay. And I just think that everything is worth questioning. If you want good ideas, let's do good ideas, but let's make them better in the process, what the legislative process is for. This has no bearing on my support for Ryan at this point. I supported Ryan. I still support Ryan, even though he supports school choice, just like I had said, that you can disagree on something. He was the unwoke candidate. He was the one that was preaching the message. He's the one that said he was going to go out there and fix that problem. I'm going to hold him to that. And so it has no bearing on that. I still support Ryan. But we should be able to ask questions. We should be able to do it because we are the party, or we are the side of these cultural issues that actually believe in freedom of speech, right? Right? That's my understanding. That's where I lie. So I'm just going to let Glenn Beck talk to you for a second, and then we're going to move on to our main story, which is about the Norman teacher. Okay? But here we go. Let's watch this for just a second.
Are fewer and far between now. And I'll say, too,
I don't trust any of them.
You can't. I mean, we hear reports about this in good Texas towns all the time, that there's all sorts of problems. And that's why these school boards have to be taken over. I will say there was a big change in Arizona, what we didn't really get a chance to talk to. We should probably go into that more, where the whole dream of being able to take your tax dollars and put your kids in a school that of your choosing, which does not seem like a crazy thing, is actually happening in Arizona.
I know, but it is really, there's strings attached to that money. And here's the problem with it. And I hate to burst the bubble of people who are very, very excited.
You're bursting my bubble right now. I know. That's what you're doing. You're trying to burst it.
I have to point this out because other states may do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a trap.
Really?
It is. Here it is.
Okay.
The money follows you, and when it follows you, it also has all kinds of strings attached to it, to where it's feeding all kinds of information. It is information gathering on steroids. Okay. So it is information gathering. Also, it is, in some cases, it is not only following and monitoring, but you also have to comply with some things if you take this federal money.
Well, it would be state money on this particular case. But yeah, I mean, still, that does seem like a better option than being forced to double pay.
You want to be really, really careful.
Yeah, we should get Corey DeAngelis or something on this, because I know they're trying to design these plans across the country, and it is important that we get it right. But a step in the right direction, maybe not a full step. But I'd love to see this play out. It is
definitely a step in the right direction. We just have to make sure that it is clean money.
Agreed.
The Glenn.
Okay, so I'm just going to say this. Glenn sits like right where I sit. I want to say that from the beginning, I've told people, oh goodness, I'm still listening to stuff here.
Being in society.
But sorry, I'm running all of my own tech here, people. And so it gets a little crazy sometimes, but Glenn Beck sits right where I sit on the issue. He believes that it could be a positive step, but there are questions about it. So all I would say is those who support it, who I know are smart people, come out and answer the questions. That's all. Let's fix it. You know what I mean? I think that's fair, don't you? I do. Okay, so now let's move on to our main story. So our main story that I brought you here today to talk about is the Norman Public School teacher who resigned, I just remember that, resigned from her position on basically the first day of school. Okay, so to outline this just a little bit, she claims that a spark in 1775, okay, there was a complaint lodged by a parent about or regarding 1775, and that caused her to be put on administrative leave. Okay, well, and I think that's true, but I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to bring it up from the aspect of maybe the most left-leaning publication that I can find, which is actually, hold on just a second, which is actually the OU Daily. if that is over there at OU, they just train you to be activists, and here's the thing, that's what they do in your public schools right now too. Okay, so but here is the story, and says Norman High School teacher resigns after accusations of violating House Bill 1775. Okay, so I'm just going to read what it says here. All right, it says Norman High School English teacher resigned Tuesday evening after a parent complained that she violated sections of House Bill 1775. Summer Wazmir posted a QR code to the Brooklyn Library Books Unbanned, or to the Brooklyn Library Books Unbanned. It's in one sentence there, or one title, in her classroom, which provides free ebooks to titles that are restricted across the country. Okay, let's just unpack that. It's also restricted. Some of the books are restricted in Norman Public Schools. Okay, now, from my understanding, House Bill 1775 doesn't restrict any specific books. Okay, the rules don't restrict any specific books, but your own current state superintendent of public instruction, outside of the bounds of House Bill 1775, issued an order, for all intents and purposes, after she was cudgeled by Ryan Walters to do it, to remove books that were inappropriate for children or people under the age of 18. So the media here has conflated an issue, I believe, and I think the parent maybe have done that at first, but it's the real story here is what the teacher did and what the teacher chose to do, when she chose to do it, and why. Okay? If you've listened to my channel, I've told you that what these activist teachers and administrators, because they're pushed on, hired by, and pushed to do this kind of thing by activist administrators, mostly through your division of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or your division of ideological enforcement, all right? They hire teachers that they know fit a certain identity group, and I'll let you judge what the identity of this teacher is without much comment, other than to say that what she does identify as, even in the way that she looks, is a woke leftist, right? And she actually says that herself. So I'm not, don't get on to me about, judging a book by its cover. I'm repeating her words. I'm summarizing her words. Okay. So before we get all bent out of shape, I know I've already pissed off the Republicans, and now I'm going for the left, the woke left. So here we go. A parent later reached out to the school, okay, after she shared this QR code. Okay. I haven't heard about the parent, but my guess is that the parent was more worried about, and this is the problem with 1775, is that many people think that 1775, the campaign conflated the issue of the porn in schools, which is queer theory. It's the same, it's queer Marxism, and you've got race Marxism, but it's all identity Marxism, right? It's designed to cause this kind of strife. It is designed to cause this kind of strife, and you have activist teachers, right? You have activist teachers who are literally trained at the University of Oklahoma across the street from Norman High School to search for these things and then use them as activist points to create media narratives that force either the state or the school district to adopt more completely, or sometimes at the beginning, a more identity Marxist ideology, which is a leftist ideology. Okay, so this is the woke stuff that Brian was talking about in his whole campaign. And this teacher is the perfect example of it. Okay, so the parent later reached out to the school and to issue a complaint accusing Bosmeyer. I'm not saying her name right, and for that I apologize. Please forgive my microaggression. Will you? That would be great. I'm sorry. I don't know. I think it's French. So Bosmeyer. I should be better at it, but I'm not, and I'm sorry. But I'm going to read it anyway. So Summer is her first name. I'll just call her Summer. Posted a QR code to the Brooklyn Library. I already read that part. Accusing Bosmeyer of violating 77.5. So there was a parent that did that. And then which bans, now just read this part, which bans schools from teaching that a person, because of their race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, either knowingly or unknowingly. Hey, kudos to the OU Daily there. They really did summarize that pretty well. That's really all the bill does. Is it says that you can't discriminate against people or make them feel bad for stuff they had nothing to do with based upon their sexual orientation, their sex as biological sex, or there any other immutable qualities that cannot be controlled. And guess what? This goes both ways. That's the thing they always forget to mention, right? It's a non-discrimination. It's the House. What 1775 is a civil rights bill. And it's amazing to me what this teacher ends up saying about that. So this is her tweet. And I'm going to take on the contention of her tweet. So this is her tweet that she made about what's happening in Norman. She said before and after. Okay, so she's saying she's covering up her books. Look, she's making this giant spectacle. Because one, she didn't go in early enough and actually take out the books. So the books are still in the classroom. Look what she's doing here. Really, look at it for just a moment. So in her classroom, instead of taking all the books out, which she could have done. When I was in elementary school, my teacher didn't have a crap ton of books sitting in the classroom. We had a library. There were other things in the classroom. There were toys and things when we were younger, but, wasn't this kind of stuff in the classroom. There's a library for that, right? Send them to the library. That's what that's for. But she says, my students no longer have access to books by BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and or gender nonconforming authors because state leadership has spent the last year loudly labeling these books and their stories, perspectives as pornography and indoctrination. Here is the conflation. Are you ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? House Bill 1775 has nothing to do with pornography. Nope. What she's responding to is an edict laid down by her current state superintendent, Joy Hoffmeister, the Democratic nominee for governor of the state of Oklahoma. So just put that in your brain for a second. 1775 has nothing to do with the issue that she just said. Now, here's the other manipulation here. You ready for this? She says her students no longer have access to books by BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and or gender nonconforming, which LGBTQ+ is plus is supposed to get the gender non-conforming. So she made this unnecessarily long. She's confused herself even. Okay. She's confused herself, or they self. I don't know. I haven't heard. So I dare not misgender. But what she says is they no longer have access to books by BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, and or gender nonconforming authors. That is patently false under 1775. 1775 rules do address curriculum and materials that are designed to make students feel and or designed to help other students make other students feel, or designed to make teachers make students feel guilty based upon their immutable qualities. But it doesn't address the authors of any of those materials. If a BIPOC, so what is that? Black, Indigenous, people of color. So they've taken all these separate groups and lumped them into one. And then you have another one, LGBTQ plus, and then another one, which actually includes the one before. I digress. It's a lot to wrap your brain around because it's meant to be a lot to wrap your brain around. I know it. But here's the problem. Any person within these alphabet litany of alphabet people, okay, can have a book in her classroom according to 1775. As long as they don't discriminate against kids on the basis of color or race or gender or sex or other immutable qualities. So she lied. She's lying right now. And again, this is coupled, I'm just going to go to the tweet. I don't know. Oh, wait, I can't. Sorry. I thought it would go with me, but it didn't. But again, this is coupled with these pictures. Instead of her taking the books out of the room, what she did was this. She made a spectacle of it because she doesn't want to teach your kids anything but how to be an activist. And she's leading by example. If the state tries to make you do something that's against your political views, when you work for the state and the state dictates because you work in a public school, not in a private school, it's different in a private school, okay? State has no authority there, right, to tell teachers what to do or administrators what to do, but they do in a public school. Ladies and gentlemen, they do. And so you've got this right here. They told her to take them out, to go through her books. And if there were any books that did what 1775 prohibited, which is discriminate against people or make them feel guilty because of the immutable qualities or the color of their skin or whatever, or any of their immutable qualities, then those were to be taken out. All the rest of them can stay. Right? So if there were a book by a Black author, say by Thomas Sowell or John McWhorter, who is, guess what? The way you understand it, the way she wants you to understand it, right? They're a part of the BIPOC community. But what we know, what I can tell you right now, this right here, the BIPOC community, that's a very specific meaning because it really has nothing to do with any of the colors mentioned. Because she doesn't consider Thomas Sowell the conservative economist or John McWhorter the conservative Black linguist or, Larry Elder, the conservative Black radio host, a part of the BIPOC community. She doesn't. So if they had a book in there, or even Ibram Kendi, who she does consider, well, you might say, what's the difference? They're both Black, right? No. They're both Black in their skin, but one has the Black voice and the other one doesn't. And I'm quoting I'm quoting Nicole Hannah-Jones, the author of the 1619 Project, when I say that. Okay? One has the Black voice and one doesn't. So when she says right here, when I unpack this, when she says access to books by BIPOC and LGBTQ plus and or gender nonconforming authors have been labeled as, what she's saying is that people that fit into these color and identity forms that have the identity Marxist voice, which all use identity to make people who don't fit into those identity categories feel bad about their innate historical impression. Am I making any sense to you? Because what's happening here is that she's conflating this. You can have a Black author, you can have a Indigenous author and a book by that Indigenous author, or a person of color, which gets all the ones that they don't want to have a letter for. Okay, you can have any author as long as it doesn't discriminate against kids based upon their immutable qualities. You can have an LGBTQ plus author, according to 1775, and a gender nonconforming author, as long as you don't violate the edict laid down by Joy Hoffmeister that said to get the ones that were written by those kinds of authors that have pornography in them out of the school. So she has conflated this issue on purpose. She's conflated it on purpose and then made a spectacle out of it. So now I'm going to show you. What I'm going to show you now is the video of her talking, because it is priceless and it underscores exactly what I have been talking to you about in her own words. In her own words. So, lest I be accused of some type of microaggression or unmicroaggression or some kind of hate speech. Okay? I'm just going to play her words for you and show you how she's lying to you. Okay? All right. Sorry, I'm slow. All right. So you got this right here. This is the story. I'm going to play it for you. It's on Fox 25. If you can't hear it, please let me know.
Resigns amid controversy surrounding Oklahoma's ban on critical race theory.
Now stop right there. This, if you had reporters who did their damn jobs, they wouldn't repeat her talking points as the news. Because she just stated that it had to do with pornography or books labeled as pornography in her own written words. But this newscaster for Fox 25 and the reporters who worked on the story did not make that distinction. Just want to point that out, because even if the parent made a 1775 complaint, all it would take a reporter to do is the parent made the complaint, but the teacher says it's about pornography, which they never do. So just watch.
She's sharing her story with Fox 25.
This all stems from an incident on the first day of school at Norman High. English teacher Summer Boismier shared a QR code with students, directing them to a program providing free ebooks through the Brooklyn Public Library called Books Unbanned. You chose to share this QR code. Why did you share it?
I understand that stories are important. Stories are a vital way that we as humans and we as a society understand ourselves and our place in that world. It's vitally important that our students, to feel empowered, see themselves reflected and validated. For too long.
Okay. So she's already moved off of what she said in her own tweet. She's already moved off of it. So she couched this whole thing as an issue of pornography, right? And you're going to see her. She's abandoned that. She's abandoned it. And she's retreated into 1775 because it's a more defensible position. But even that is incorrect. and probably because the parent made a complaint. Parents, if you're listening to me right now, don't make complaints, first of all, to the school. Make complaints to the State Board of Education. Second of all, come to me first before you make a complaint. I will tell you whether or not it is a viable complaint under 1775, because this just played into the hands. And I would just wonder, I want to find out who this parent was, and I hope they did it in good faith. If you did it in good faith, hey, thank you for being courageous and going and doing it. And learn from this mistake, because it kind of blew up in your face because they were able to manufacture a narrative out of it that is false, but the media will just pick up their water and throw it, right? It'll just throw it right at everybody. It'll just throw it right over there. So if you have a question about 1775 and the rules and are thinking about making a complaint, contact me. Okay? I'm on Facebook. You can contact me there. Contact me. But the point is she's already moving to 1775, which is not what she had said. She talked about pornography. And that's why she covered the books like she did in such dramatic fashion. And now she's talking about stories. Critical race theorists call themselves storytellers. And what they mean by that is literally, in their own words, is that they redefine history. That's their own language. I'm not joking, and I'm not being hyperbolic. They want to retell history under a different narrative. Okay? But let's continue.
Education, public education, has not included those stories.
Did you think for a moment this is going to cause a critical race theory complaint?
I think every educator in Oklahoma, since the passage of 1775, has understood that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If we're doing our job.
She, again, at the very beginning of this, she said that 1775 was about pornography. So she's blaming what Joy Hoffmeister made her do, because nobody sent anything through the school that said that they had to remove things. That they gave guidelines, okay, under if your books do this, make sure you go through them, right? But they still give the teacher the discretion, right, to go through their own books in their room. Could have just taken them all out. But to go through them, right, and make sure they don't violate the tenets of 1775, which are don't make kids feel bad because of the way they look, think, and feel. Right? That's literally what it is. It's just so backwards. But she said it's porn. She said in her tweet at the beginning, the very first thing that came out about this, that it was about pornography, which was done by
jobs. It's a matter of
Joy
when.
Hoffmeister.
I don't have control over people's feelings, so I'm not sure why I'm being penalized for that.
You placed the blame squarely on the legislature, on the governor. You didn't blame the district. Were their hands, as you see it, kind of tied in this, or do districts need to do more to protect their teachers?
Norman Public Schools and every school district in the state is in a difficult position. How do we protect our teachers while following an impossible to follow law? Districts are scared.
It is not an impossible to follow law. It's not an impossible to follow law. All it is, I'm going to read it to you. You can't see this, but I'll pull it up in a minute. But I'm just going to read to you what it says. So these are the general prohibitions. No teacher, administrator, or other school employee shall require or make any of the course or make part of any course offered in public school the following discriminatory principles. Okay? One race is inherently superior to another race or sex. An individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. So these are the things that are prohibited. An individual this is prohibited. An individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of his or her race or sex. Members of one race or sex cannot and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Does this sound like it should be hard? Should you be allowed? Should you be allowed to do these things? Here's another thing you're not allowed to do under 1775. You cannot impugn an individual's moral character. An individual's moral character is necessarily determined by his or her race or sex. Okay? So you shouldn't be able to do that. Okay? An individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. It's really hard for her not to do that. An individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or other forms of psychological distress on account of his or her race or sex. It's really hard for her not to make her students do that. That's impossible for her to follow. Meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic or racist meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic or racist or sexist or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. These are the things that 1775 disallows. And it disallows books that reinforce all of those things. And this teacher is claiming victimhood status because she cannot, by law, insist that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. She is saying that it is impossible to follow law because she's not allowed to make an individual, by virtue of his or her race or sex, feel inherently racist or sexist, oppressive, or either consciously or unconsciously. She is very upset she can't do that. That is impossible. Now here's where it gets good.
The law has done exactly what it was intended to do. I need parents and guardians.
Yes, it has stopped you from being able to discriminate against kids based on their race and sex. That's correct.
To understand that your teachers are not your enemies, and we don't want to be.
What now? Do you go back?
Your teachers are activists. They are the enemy of education. And I'm going to prove that here by her own words.
To a classroom somewhere else? Do you take on a more advocacy role?
I am a walking HB 1775 violation.
Amen. I agree with you. You are a walking HB 1775 violation because you're an activist. You're an indoctrination specialist. You are somebody who wants to discriminate against children based upon their race and sex. And you're very upset that you can't do that. I just want to point this. I got to go back. And I'm going to let you watch this whole thing. Not from the beginning, but just this little portion. Listen to this.
And impossible to follow law. Districts are scared. Difficult position. How do we protect our teachers while following an impossible to follow law? Districts are scared. The law has done exactly what it was intended to do. I need parents and guardians to understand that your teachers are not your enemies, and we don't want to be.
What now? Do you go back to a classroom somewhere else? Do you take on a more advocacy role?
I am a walking HB 1775 violation. And,
yes, you are.
One of the sticking points between myself and my previous district,
Norman Public Schools.
I would do it again in a heartbeat. And
you knew that.
Yeah, you knew that. I would do it again. You know why? You know why she would do it again? Because That's all she's there to do. She did this on the very first day of school, ladies and gentlemen. She did this on the very first day of school. She knew exactly what she was going to do when she walked in the room. She is a con artist. She's an activist con artist. That's all she is. She got the job. She was approved by, guess who? Stephanie Williams at Norman Public Schools, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director. You know who has direct administrative purview over the English department, who this teacher works for in the English department? Stephanie Williams, your DEI director at Norman Public Schools. I am going to make such a bold statement as to say that they cooked up this whole thing. They planned on it. Because if it had all precipitated on something she knew, she would get her in trouble. And look at this gleeful reporter, just like, oh yes, this is so virtuous that you've just manufactured this outrage. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's just like, it doesn't. Are we going to stop falling for it and calling these people what they are, which is really, really bad? Really bad reality TV show performers? This stuff is worse than the freaking Bachelorette, man. It's just as scripted. It's just as scripted. Look at this. I'm gonna watch it again.
Self and my previous district was, I would do it again in a heartbeat. And
yes, you would.
You knew that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you knew.
No regrets.
No regrets. Would do it again. Will do it again.
Would do it again. Will do it again. You knew that. Absolutely. Just going to play that one more time.
I would be the sticking points between myself and my previous district was I would do it again in a heartbeat. And
you knew that.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No regrets.
No
No
regrets.
regrets. Would do it again. Will do it again.
Will do it again. Hire her on up, people.
Now, Norman Schools contends as educators, the goal is to teach students to think critically, not tell them what to think. The district says they addressed the issue and they expected the teacher to return to class as normal today. And they state the teacher was never terminated, suspended, or placed on leave.
Come on, man. Listen to this. The teacher was never terminated, suspended, or placed on leave. But all of the news stories that came out that were all over Twitter by activist journalists looking for a click or two, what'd they do? They said, oh, this teacher's been fired. No, this teacher quit, even though she was never put on leave. She was never suspended, according to Norman Public Schools. But I want to point out one small deception by your Norman Public Schools right here. It says, however, as educators, it is our goal to teach students to think critically. Critical race theory, critical gender theory, critical queer theory, critical. They use that word to mean that if you can find the bad as a cudgel, if you can find something to use as a cudgel for your activism to change the institution that you're in into one that values identity Marxism above all else, then you're required to do it. That's thinking critically. So, and that's what Stephanie Williams, your DEI director, believes. I want to put this out there. I would love to have Stephanie Williams on this program. I will be kind. I will be courteous. I would love to have her on this program. Soon, I'm going to be going over her DEI training. So I guess I kind of will. But I would love to give her the opportunity to come defend her ideas. Just want to point that out. But I want to play the rest of this. I think you got a little bit. No, it's not that much. But so this little deception here by Norman Public Schools. Thinking critically. They want them to think critically, all right. And that's why they hire those kinds of teachers. This was all a manufactured. This was all a manufactured outrage. That's all this was. And it was by design. It was by design. Again, I want to show you her tweets. I'm going to go into her tweets. And I want to show you how exactly she did this. Just one last time, because this is what people don't know, is that she's weaponizing your empathy. She's weaponizing your empathy, and it was all planned. It was all planned. Let's look at the date here. So this is August 12th. This is before school started. She had already planned. So there's all her books, right? She's teaching at a high school. I did not have this many books in my high school classrooms. We brought our textbook if we were reading something. Do y'all remember having a library in your high school classroom? Nope. I don't. Went to the library for books. Okay. But, you know. So that's one. And then she shows you the difference. Oh my goodness. Red paper. Red paper. She should have just taken the books out. If all of them, what she's saying here is that every book she had in the classroom would have violated Joy Hoffmeister's edict on pornography and or the edict on not BIPOC authors, not LGBTQ authors, but authors who put out, you could be a straight, white, cisgendered male. And if you write something with pornography in it, it's not allowed. If you write something that's racist, like, I don't know, like Mein Kampf, right? If Mein Kampf would have been in that room, out. You realize that, right? That's the same category. They are in the same category. These people are racists. These people use identity to gain power. This teacher should have never been in the classroom in the first place, but she was allowed in just to do this, just to cause this big brouhaha. And then she puts this up, book the state doesn't want you to read, for all of her students to see, so they can see her being so brave and so brave. Oh my gosh. We've got to stop being stupid, people. Oh, so brave. Red paper, so brave. But look at the flag. You see the LGBTQ flag? Did you see an American flag in there? Did you? Oh, got another pride flag. That's a political statement. You see, her identity is her politics. So in order to accept her politics, in order to accept her identity, you have to accept her politics. Not only do you have to accept them, you have to adopt them. And then she predicts it. Make no mistake, when my students are also members of these marginalized communities walk in next week, they'll get the message loud and clear. The state of Oklahoma wants them erased. I think at the very least, at the very most, they want them covered in red paper. Students aren't books. Books aren't students. And politics aren't people. In order to accept her identity, you have to accept her politics. That's the cudgel. You get it? And then she says again, representation matters. Stories and who gets to tell them. So basically, the stories that she wants that share her political view and her who holds her political view and looks like she holds her political view. That's literally what she's saying right there. Okay. I refuse to be party to this censorship. This is a week before the thing. This is a week before school. Do with that what you will, but whatever you do, please vote. Grace for okay. And we made the right choice with Ryan Walters, did we not? Did we not, Oklahoma? We made the right choice. See, even if I disagree with him on school choice, look at me, my right-leaning friends who are anti-school choice. We made the right damn choice. I'm going to piss you off too. Vote Grace for Oklahoma. Wow. Okay. But this right here proves that she had every intention of the first day of school dropping this, which was, wait a minute. Wasn't that right before something? Oh, yeah. That was right the day before the election, wasn't it? Just a few days. I believe they started on Friday, the day before the election. That's convenient timing, isn't it? These people are activists, and they're doing it on purpose. Everything they accused Ryan Walters of being, everything they accuse us of being, me of being, James Lindsay or Chris, they are literally doing themselves. And I just laid it out for you and used their own words to prove the timeline. So, let me see what a few people have said here. She said, no way on Grace. I've got, let's see, who do I got? Ooh, I've had a lot of people talk. I'm sorry. I don't have fancy two screens because unlike a lot of these activists, I am not funded. So if you do support me, go like and subscribe to my channel. Okay. Maybe I should start a GoFundMe, but I just hate taking money for this. This isn't what I don't do that. I'm trying to make a career out of it, but I will say this. My career is out of telling the truth, not of anything else, which is why I've not taken any money from any political people. Okay. But which is why because I need to be able to piss everyone off when they need to be pissed off. That's freedom of speech, right? And I had somebody ask, well, the books that she needed is from a Facebook user. I'm sorry, I can't see your name if you're watching on Facebook. If you want your name to pop up or anything like that, you're going to have to show. But it says, were said books needed for her teaching her topic? Probably not. But here's the thing. Embedding critical race theory into everything you do, like Stephanie Williams mandated for her to do, actually requires to make all of the politics in as a part of all the teaching of the content. So maybe. Okay. Owen Jones says, what's up? What's up, Owen Jones? How you doing? Let's see. Citizens for Liberty, Oklahoma. Will you show your kids how to be hacktivists? Yeah, that's pretty much what was happening. And she's modeling it for them right now. That's the other thing. That's the indoctrination. It's the praxis. Critical race theory, critical queer theory, all of them have theory and praxis. What you're seeing right now is what they're training your kids to do in school. It's what she was trained to do in college and probably in school before that. It's what they're trained to do. It's just a perpetuating cycle. This is why Ryan Walters, Governor Stitt, Shane Jett, all the people that I like these people. I think they've done good things. But until you go after the administrations, nothing's going to work. Nothing is going to work. Okay, so let's see who else said something interesting. Yes. criticize critical theories. That's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm literally, that's what all I do is criticize critical theories. That's all I do. You know, she teaches high school AD, but here's the thing. So she's saying that Breaking Dawn and Twilight was softcore. I could agree with that, but the stuff we've seen, like Flamer and Queer, what is it? The other one, that was actual porn. That's more like 50 Shades of Grey porn. That's where progressivism progresses. It doesn't have a stop button. It progresses. And here's the other thing. This is what they're going to do. They go after Ryan for holding values that they themselves do not hold. They will go after me for holding values, and maybe, or anybody on the right, or anybody that doesn't agree with them, for holding values they do not hold, and for failing to meet values they do not hold. Just be ready for that. School choice people do that too. The upper echelons, let me just point that out. They do that too. I'm so tired of people that set the narrative. And I'm not running for damn anything. So I can say what I want. And it's not a endorsement or unendorsement. I've said who I support and who I don't. But I don't have to agree with them on everything. But you aren't going to shut me up. Just pointing that out. And he said, when he said critique critical theories, I wasn't thinking of speaking directly to you. I meant anyone in general. Yes, I get that. I know. I'm just saying that I was. But that's what we should do. We should meme them into non-existence, because when it comes down to it, they are very ridiculous. When you understand the grift, what they do is ridiculous. And they're doing it at the cost of your children. So, all right, guys. That is all I had to say. If you have any questions about that, or anything like that, I do have some more details that I'm going to dig into. Especially, again, I just want to outline that he was claiming to not be able to do was show pornography to kids in school, which was not prevented from her by 1775, but by Joy Hoffmeister. Okay? That's what happened. So, neither here nor there. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell if you appreciate what I'm doing. If you don't. That's fine. Okay? I'll be back tomorrow. We've got some interesting things coming up. You should stay tuned. You should like and subscribe. Just saying. I've been holding on to a lot of things for a few years, and it's going to get fun. Thanks, guys. See you later.